Sorry about that. My mic was muted. Hey, family. Happy Tuesday evening. On tonight, I have a very special guest with me that is going to share with us about a newer EA review system that's out right now. So I'm excited about this because this is a name that I'm familiar with, but I know those of you who may not have a traditional accounting background may not be as familiar with. So as you're hopping in, make sure you say hello in the comments below, because I know we have about a 40-second lag with YouTube. And then I have my folks on LinkedIn over here who are about a full minute behind. So drop in the comments, let us know where you're tuning in from. Right now we have 6 on LinkedIn, we have 5 on YouTube. It looks like nobody on Facebook, but that's okay. So as I mentioned before, on this channel, I like to share tips with you, whether you are a current enrolled agent or you are aspiring to be an enrolled agent. And one of the questions that I am asked more times than I can count now is what EA review system you should use. Now, I can speak for myself personally and my learning style, but I like to share the different systems with you so you can find what's going to be the best fit for you. The EA review system that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight is one that, if it would have existed when I was studying for the EA exam almost 10 years ago, I would have went to hands down without even shopping around. And the reason for that is because this EA review system, or I'm sorry, this company that has introduced this EA review system is a household name within the accounting industry, and that is Becker. So when I was in undergrad getting that accounting degree, it was Becker or nothing. If you were going to take the CPA exam, you needed to use Becker if you wanted to be successful and pass all 4 parts on the first try. But unfortunately, that was 2008 when I was introduced to Becker. Fast forward, when I decided to sit for the EA exam, they weren't quite in the game yet. But now that they are, it is my pleasure to introduce them to you. So as you all are hopping in, let me tell you a little bit about the guest that we are going to have with us on tonight. So we have Mike Potenza, who, if you're on LinkedIn, he's actually tagged in the event. You can go follow him there if you'd like to. He not only is a CPA, he's also an attorney and now an EA. He's been a national instructor for Becker. He started, I believe, back in 1998, and since that time, he has become the Vice President for Instruction and Client Relations. So he teaches in the EA review course, CPA review course, and the CMA exam review course. So again, I'm happy that he took the time to stop by here to share about what Becker has to offer for aspiring EAs with us. So without any further ado, I am going to go ahead and bring him on. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Timalyn, how are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining me on tonight. As I just got done going over, I know you have a busy schedule, so I appreciate your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. And I'll sit down and I'll talk anything tax because I love tax. But then again, who doesn't love tax, right?
Right. I always tell people I'm a self proclaimed tax nerd, but I think by this time, other people would probably call me one too. So, before we get too far into Becker, because some people have tuned in to let us know where, um, or they've dropped in the comments to let us know where they're tuning in from. So, we have Evan Smith. I accidentally didn't send him the link earlier. So, Evan, I'm glad you made it on. He's in the Bay Area, California. I don't believe I've met Augusta before, an aspiring EA. We have Arizona in the house. And yeah, the numbers on LinkedIn are up higher, but like I mentioned earlier, Mike, they have a little bit more of a lag over there. So they might start hopping in a little bit later. Um, Phillies in the house, go birds.
I got to see if Giancarlo. I'm a New York guy, and my football teams are terrible here. The Giants and Jets. It's embarrassing. Maybe he'll let me root for the Eagles for just a little while until we get good again.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. So I mentioned back in 2008, oh, we got somebody else closer to you. We got some folks from New York in the house.
All right, representing.
When I was an accounting major, like it was no joke. If you were serious about passing the CPA exam, like you needed to invest in Becker. So, having that type of success in 2008 wasn't that long ago, even though my 11-year-old tries to make it seem like it was. It really wasn't that long ago. I know Becker has been doing review courses for professional exams longer than that. Having success in that area, though, what made Becker decide to start offering an EA review system?
Well, Becker, like you said, has been around for a long time, 70 years doing CPA. So it's a long time. But as we were looking at the market and the popularity of EA has really been growing, and we
Mm-hmm.
saw a need looking at the expertise that we have in public accounting and even managerial accounting. We teach everything for the CPA exam related to tax. So there is a huge overlap in content between regulation on the CPA exam and all of the tax concepts tested on all the parts of the EA exam. So it was kind of a natural fit. And although there not all of it overlaps, right? There's some information that EA tests that CPA doesn't. But again, it seemed like if we could take our model and apply it to the enrolled agent exam, it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, what I like to remind people is that, all of the material should be the same in the review systems. It's just going to be presented differently. And before I get to that, I want to go back because you just mentioned that the EA credentials gaining popularity. So that kind of speaks to another question I'm often asked: is being an EA still worth it? So if more people are going for the credential, in my personal opinion, especially with shortages with IRS staff, whether that's them being furloughed, not being able to hire, whatever it is, I think that brings more of a demand for enrolled agents to serve as advocates. So I'm happy to see you all now offering a review system.
Yeah. And again, even though we say EA is growing, it's still only, about 11 or 12,000 taking the exam every year. So the number could grow a lot more. There's still a lot of room. But what I love about it is if you're a tax person and that's what you want to focus on, it's such a great way to make a living. You could be really busy if you want during the busy season. Then if you want to slow down in the off season, you can do that. But there's so much now with tax planning and prep work that if you want to stay busy for an entire year, just advising, there's such an opportunity.
Absolutely. Or I always tell folks that are EAs they should come onto the dark side and do what I do and do representation work all year. We get paid to argue with the IRS and we don't have to
Mm-hmm.
get the student debt from law school. So
Nothing the matter with that.
So going back to what I was gonna say before, the information is covered in a review system. It should ideally be the same, but there is a special way that Becker does present the material. I mean, we wouldn't have you here 70 years later, right? If there wasn't something to the way that Becker does things. For people who were maybe wondering, like, what does the Becker EA review system look like in terms of, like, is it self-paced? Is it live courses? What kind of offerings does Becker have?
Sure. So we modeled our enrolled agent program after the CPA review, which has really been successful. We have literally had over 2 million people pass all 4 parts of the CPA exam, and the system works, and it works well if you follow it. So we took this system, we applied it to the enrolled agent, all 3 parts of the exam. So what we do is we have a textbook, but what we did is we created summary slide decks from that textbook. And then we have what we call concept videos. And they're really small bite-sized videos, 10, 15-minute videos on all the different concepts within the different parts. So we take the learning outcome statements that are necessary to understand to pass the exam, and we created a program to cover all of the different items that are testable on each of the 3 parts. So what you do is you watch a few videos, each one like 10 or 15 minutes. Then after you watch a certain number of videos, we have multiple choice questions for homework on those concepts. So you'll work through, let's say you start with unit 1. You'll work through unit 1, and we'll have different modules based on the different topics that could be tested. So you watch a few videos, then you'll do a number of multiple choice questions for homework. Then you'll move on to the next few videos, and you'll do more multiple choice questions. And we have a roadmap right on our website in our EA program that'll show you exactly where you're starting and where you need to get, and it'll show you your progress as you go through it. Then every so often, we'll pop in a little what we call a mini exam, which will be just like a regular exam you would take for the real exam, but only on the material that you've covered so far. So it's just a way to go back and review and make sure that you do understand everything up to this point before moving on to the next few topics. And we'll just work our way down that entire roadmap, videos, homework, little mini exams, until you get through the entire program. And when you come to the end, we'll have a culminating simulated exam, which are brand new questions that you've never seen before. They're different from the homework questions. They're different from all of the mini exams. And then you can take a real exam under time conditions and see how you do. And then you can review the exam, see what you know, what you don't know, and it will really put you in an excellent position to make sure that you get that score necessary in order to pass the real exam.
That's awesome. And I'm glad that you all have the roadmap, because I don't know what you've seen, but what I've seen from people who are aspiring EAs, a lot of them are doing this after school, or maybe they didn't go to college, which that's fine. But with that being said, they're out of the habit of studying. So it's kind of like, where do I get started? I don't know where to go from here. So having that guidance is kind of like that syllabus, right?
So, and speaking of guidance, something else that we offer in our program, 2 things. One is called academic support. We have a full-time team of tax professionals who their only job is to answer your questions. So if you're in our program and you're going through a video or you're going through a homework question, you do not understand it, there's a little email icon right on the side. And you can click on that icon, a window pops up, it fills it out exactly where you are, whatever question you're on, and it says, what's your question? You can type it in, hit submit, and you'll get a live person respond to you probably in about an hour or so. But that's only one way. The second way we have to get feedback is even more instantaneous. We actually have the same technology as ChatGPT, that same LLM, that large language modeling, and it is called Newt. Newt is named after the person that founded Becker, Newt Becker. He passed away about 5 or 6 years ago, but now he lives on forever in an AI bot. So what happens is if you try to study for this exam and use ChatGPT, ChatGPT will give you a large percentage of hallucinations, because ChatGPT could point to older rules and regulations, maybe things that are not updated for the latest exam, and it might be from 1 or 2 exams ago, and it might give you bad information, and you don't want to study that. So our AI bot, known as Newt, which is exactly the same technology as ChatGPT, is behind our firewall and only points to information that is current. So we've only launched this 2 months ago, and we've had literally millions of hits from our students so far. And our hallucination rate right now is under 2%, where ChatGPT is over 20%. We're under 2%. So if you need instantaneous feedback, you could, let's say you're doing a question on alternate valuation date, and you go, oh God, I remember reviewing alternate valuation date under trust and estates, but I can't remember what the definition is. You could type in, explain to me the alternate valuation date in more detail, and you'll get a nice explanation. Or you could say, explain the alternate valuation date to me like I'm 10 years old and make sure all the words rhyme. And it'll do that too, just like ChatGPT. It is wild, and it's a great way to get instant feedback and learn, and the students have really loved it so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you for pointing out that it only points to you all's information, which has already been verified, because I know that's the thing that people forget now with AI. They'll type in the prompt, but not verify. Always verify before you rely. I had somebody who was like, well, I don't need to get a review system. And they were telling me like what ChatGPT had given them. And because I've been doing taxes for a while, I realized and recognized that some of the information was pre-Tax Cut and Job Act. And I was like, this is way outdated.
For sure.
That's awesome too. So we have Newt. So if you get stuck on a concept or whatever, you have that kind of, I guess you could say 24/7 tutor, right?
Absolutely.
Newt being there.
Hands down.
What about if somebody already knows going in, maybe they learn better from like a live session?
Sure. So we have 2 ways that we can deliver our course. Right now, predominantly it's asynchronistic. So you could go watch these videos of national instructors, 3 a.m. on a Saturday night, whenever you want. But there are some people that need more structure. They need, more accountability that, hey, I need to know on a Monday and Wednesday evening from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., I need to log into a virtual classroom and, sit there and have an instructor teach me live, and I can ask questions and things like that. So we are going to be offering our program like that in the upcoming year, where we'll have a schedule published for the year, and you can see exactly when these live online courses are offered. So whether you want to study asynchronistically and just watch pre-recorded videos on your own whenever you want, or you want to subscribe to the live online version of this and have structured Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or weekends, you'll be able to do that as well.
Yeah, and I think that, again, is something that'll be very helpful for people who just are out of study mode and don't have that discipline to keep going anymore, or be self-motivated on their own. So before I ask my next question, I do want to point this out. You got a little bit of a tease here from Giancarlo.
I saw that. I see that. All right, Giancarlo, listen, tax is more important, okay? Come on. You don't want to log off for this. And you just won a Super Bowl. Cut me a break. I haven't won a Super Bowl in a long time, all right?
So we have Texas here. Evan brought up a question. And you guys, we got a few more people still on LinkedIn. So as you have questions, be sure you drop them in the comments. So Evan asked, how do EAs stay up to date on tax law? Is there ongoing access to this review system?
Okay, great question. You mind if I answer this one?
Go ahead.
Okay, so there's two schools of thought right now, and I want to make sure I understand. First off, if you're preparing to, take the EA exam, you're obviously just staying up to date on this particular current year tax, right? So you want to make sure that you're aware of what it is, and all of that information for the exam will be in our system. But what's going to happen is once you get this EA license or this EA designation, you, for a number of years, next year, the next year, you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, right? So to your point, how do I stay on top of this once I have my EA credential? Well, EA is going to require you to do continuing professional education every year. And that's how you do that. And it's really important that you do it because, like you said, tax laws change every year. And you're going to get, we had the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that totally revolutionized things. Now we have the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, right? So these are all things that we have to know what's going on. So yes, once you're done this and you pass the 3 parts and you could put those beautiful letters after your name, EA, you will be required to complete the continuing professional education, which at Becker, we offer that as well. It has to be approved by the IRS. So you can't just go to any CPE course out there because the credit will not count if it is not an approved course by the IRS. So be careful about that. Whether you use Becker, whether you use another program to do it, that's really, really important information.
Yeah, and I want to speak a little bit more to that. And Mike, I'm already a little bit more excited, see, because the people I've talked to in the other review systems, they weren't tax people. So I can feel like you getting excited talking about it too. So that's nice.
Love it. Love it.
So Evan, like Mike said, you will be required to take continuing education. Now, in your first renewal cycle, it's a little bit wacky. But every 3 years, you're required to do a minimum of 72. I will tell you, don't limit yourself to 72. That balances out with what you're required to do is 24 per calendar year, and 2 of those have to be ethics. Um, and also with what Mike said as well, the distinction when you're out there looking, most stuff that says CPE is going to be for CPAs, and that's approved by NASBA. But then with the CE that you would be looking at, it has to be from an IRS approved provider. So because CPAs deal with more than tax and maybe not tax at all, they do have some CPE where they can get credit hours, or maybe it talks about workflows, or you've seen like QuickBooks will offer something. That may be a cool course for you to go to, but you're not going to get credit for attending that course. So you most definitely want to make sure that you're watching out for that as you're signing up and purchasing different continuing education. Because again, don't limit yourself, but you do want to make sure that you're actually getting the hours that are required according to the IRS. And I know you all have a library of CPE, but you all will be offering CE for enrolled agents as well, correct?
We already do. That's how I
Okay.
get all my credit. Yeah. So it's there. And what's great is when you go into our CPE learning platform, you could check off IRS approved, and it will only list courses that are IRS approved. So you don't have to worry about it. Well, once I check off that filter, everything I see here, I know I can get credit for that.
Gotcha. Beautiful. Yeah, and it's nice when you can get them all in one place. I'm not sure. I believe with you all's, it's a subscription
Correct.
where you have a certain amount. Okay.
Or you could do pay by credit, or you could do a subscription, and then you can do as much as you want.
Yeah, which is something to keep in mind, you all, if you do decide to go with Becker. Different teachers have a different teaching style, but usually if you're coming from one platform, if you like certain teachers, you'll probably like the other stuff they offer, which brings me to something else, because that's not always true. There's more than one teacher for the EA review system, right?
That's correct.
So one of the things that I like about it as well, like when looking at other systems, all of them don't have a variety of teachers. So again, sometimes you can feel stuck. So with Becker, is there a certain amount of different people that they would see, or how does that work?
Well, pretty much we have one instructor for each of the 3 parts. So for the first part, we have Orgel Casio. She's from Louisiana, and she's a CPA and an EA as well, and has been teaching this stuff for a long time. She's wonderful. Then I teach all of the entity taxation in part 2. And then we have Ricardo Buonostero from California, and he does all of our part 3 videos.
Okay, cool. So here is another question that I usually get. What if I don't need a physical textbook? Which I don't. I think it's the people who are studying that are younger than me. I'm 36. Like, I had to have a physical book to like highlight, write notes in. Once I got through it that first time, like I was done, but I still had that. For Becker, are there different options, like different ways you can purchase the EA review system, or is it just one size kind of fits all for everybody?
It is basically one size fits all. So you buy the program and you can get a physical textbook if you'd like, but you don't have to. And there is an electronic textbook if you prefer electronic textbooks better. So we have both of them. And I always tell people, if you are going to get the textbook, if you want to have something to look at, like I'm the same way. I'm Gen X, so I need a textbook to touch. All my kids are Gen Z and they never have textbooks. They're like, oh God, it's so annoying to carry around a textbook. How do you do that? They love just doing everything online. So definitely it's a generational thing. So I always tell people, if you are going to do what we call redeem or get a textbook sent to you, just do it one textbook at a time. As you're studying for one part, you would get that textbook. And when we teach the videos, what we do is we have summary slide decks, like PowerPoint decks, of the text of the most important information out of the textbook. So we teach from those slide decks. So you never even have to open up the textbook, but we do it for people that need a greater understanding and maybe they don't have some of the back knowledge and they want to go and read a little bit more about it. Well, then we have a textbook available for them. But again, you could get through the whole program with either the electronic textbook or no textbook at all, just utilizing all of our summary slide decks that we teach from.
Okay, cool. So Augusta agrees with us. It said I too need the physical textbook. So we're not alone here.
Exactly.
So I've also had people ask me as well, well, I don't want to, or mention this rather, I don't want to purchase or invest in an EA review system. What if I don't pass? Like, will I still have access to it? Or maybe they're a little price sensitive at this time. Like, is there any way that they could break that up? So, what are the options that Becker has for that?
So 2 things here. First, you can pay up front, or we have what we call flex pricing if you want to pay over time. So you can definitely, spread it out and pay over time. That's no problem at all. And it is unlimited. So once you sign up for it, it's going to be with you until you can pass those parts.
Okay. Awesome. I have a note here that I took about Newt that I forgot to bring up. And I think this is really, really awesome because as this credential is gaining popularity, it's not just US based tax professionals. So, one of the things that Newt can do if somebody is studying whose native language isn't English, let me make sure I got it right. They can ask Newt the question in their native language.
Correct.
And Newt is still able to give it back to them in that language. Is that correct, or do I not have it all the way right?
I believe it does give it back to them in that language, but I would have to test it because I unfortunately only speak one language, so I've never been able to test that one out. But I believe it could give it back in either language. And you could say respond in English, or you could tell it to, respond in your native language. I believe so. So I can confirm that with you, though, and just send you a note on that. And then you can share that out.
Yeah, for sure. I just like the different functionalities because I do think there are times when AI as we know it isn't used correctly or it's abused. But Newt is definitely something that I can see kind of tearing down another barrier to help people to become enrolled agents by being able to use that feature or create flashcards and those types of things. Let me check and make sure that we're actually seeing all the comments from LinkedIn. 'Cause like I said, there is a lag over here. We have a silent group tonight, which is interesting.
Mhm.
With the EA review system, we've talked about the lecture videos, the multiple choice questions, and practice questions. What would you tell somebody who's trying it out? Maybe they're doing the 14-day free trial to make sure they take advantage of to see if it's going to be something that works for them.
So the main tools that we have in our program, and we've already gone over, like you said, we have the electronic textbook, the concept videos, the slides, the MCQs. Another thing that we have that we did not mention is flashcards. So we have electronic flashcards right on our website, almost like a Quizlet if you've ever seen that before. So the flashcards are really helpful for remembering concepts. We also have a tax form video. Now, this is something on the EA exam, they're not going to actually pull up tax forms and ask you to fill them out. But let's just say that you get a question on a particular tax form and you want a little more information on it, or maybe even for the real world application, we actually have videos on all the major tax forms that you could watch to get a better understanding on how to utilize them. We also have unlimited practice tests. We have a bank of hundreds of multiple choice questions that are not in your homework, and they're not on your mini exams, they're not on your final simulated exam. We leave these questions just for more practice, so that as you're going through the units and the modules, and each one has about 5 or 6 units to get through part 1 and 5 or 6 units to get through part 2. So let's say by the time you get to unit 4, unit 5, you might be forgetting unit 1, unit 2. You could do unlimited practice tests, and you could designate, just give me questions from unit 1, or just give me questions from unit 1, module 2, and module 4. This way you could go back and continue to practice. And that's really key, because too many people, there's too much time from when they start studying to when they finish, and they may know all of the latest information, but they don't remember that information early on. So our unlimited practice tests with brand new questions really helps with that. And we also have a glossary built right into our program, so that if you ever come up with a word that you don't understand, you could go to the glossary, or you could go to Newt and say, Newt, I don't know what this word means. Can you explain it to me? And Newt will give you the explanation as well.
That's awesome. I like that it pulls up the tax form, because what I've seen is people will go and pass the exam. Just like if you're going through school, you may know something in theory, but not how to actually apply it. So I think that one of the reasons, and I think I had good study material and habits, but one of the reasons I was able to pass everything on the first go round is because I had actually applied it already.
For sure. Makes a big difference.
Yes, I love that you all actually do that so they can see how it can be applied, how it should be applied in real life. So we have another question here, and I'll let you speak to this. I'll see if our
Sure.
answers are similar.
Okay, yeah. Well, again, now this is going to vary based on the person and the experience, right? If you've been working on tax prep before, it's going to be much easier for you. And if you have a broader understanding of, some have a better understanding of individual, some have entity. Part 3, which is where we're focusing on the actual practice itself, that's new to a lot of people if they haven't run a practice before. So I would probably say, I would give myself, depending if you really have a good understanding of this, maybe about a month to 6 weeks on the short end, to maybe 2 to 3 months, depending on the long end, if you're learning a lot of the material for each part of the exam. I'm not sure if you agree with that, Timalyn.
I think there are a few more factors. So again, for me, I had worked 3 busy seasons in public accounting and had the accounting degree, and in groups and stuff, I saw how part 1 was easier, but those aren't the types of returns I had done.
Hmm.
I had done S corps and partnerships. So for me, I understood basis and depreciation. Everything that people said was really hard. So I only needed a little bit of time for part two. It was the stuff that I didn't do every
Hmm.
day that took me a little bit longer. Now I will say I studied longer than a month, but again, looking at those different factors, I had been out of practice studying and I had a 3-year-old business partner that was trying to run my life. So
Hmm.
I think it definitely can be done within that month, 6 weeks, if the person studying has the time to actually like buckle in. And if they don't, it's one of those things too, prioritizing. If you have a house full of family, maybe you need 2, 3 months. I don't
Sure.
know. It just depends on, I think, the stage in life as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. How much free time do you have? How much time can you dedicate each week? Because you have to put in a certain number of hours to get through it. Oh my goodness. And speaking of that, just reminded me of something that I didn't talk about in our program. One of the best things we have in our program is when you do enroll and you're getting ready to study, we have something known as a study planner. And what you can do is you can tell it the day you want to start studying and the day you want to sit for the exam, and it will give you a ballpark idea how much time you're going to need to spend each week in order to get through all of the material and be ready to sit for the exam. So that's one of the other great things where this study planner will hold you accountable and say, all right, we're going to set a schedule and you need to follow this schedule to get through the material, because if you don't, you're going to sit for the exam. And if you don't get through the material, you significantly diminish your odds on passing the exam. But if you do get through the material, there's a really good chance that you can pass the exam.
Yeah, and I like that too. And for people who have looked at other EA review systems or maybe watched the other videos, I do want to point that out as a differentiation because you're not seeing the same questions over and over and over again. And you have a study planner from somebody who's putting out reputable review systems. So it's not like you all don't know what's going to work and you're still getting fresh questions. So it's not like, okay, now I'm doing good on the practice quizzes because I've answered this question 5 times already. You're getting different angles of it as well. So our next question is coming from Augusta. What is the realistic amount of time for learning all the material before the first EA exam? Then reasonable amount of time to prep for second and third exam for confidence on the job.
Well, remember, the material on the second and the third exams is different than that of the first exam. So even if you put a lot of time in the first exam and let's say you ace it, it's not going to impact how much time you have to put on the second exam, because first exam is predominantly individual tax. Second exam is predominantly entity, and it's going to be everything from your corporations to your partnerships, your LLCs and trust and estates and things like that, and even not for profits. And then on the third exam, it's all the rules for running your tax practice. So these are very much different buckets of information. So how many weeks it's going to take you to get through is dependent on how much time you're going to spend each week, right? And it also is going to be dependent on how much knowledge you have going in to the program. But having a
Mhm.
study planner really kind of give you an idea of how many hours a week you need to do it. If you say, let's just hypothetically say you wanted to begin studying on June 1st and you want to sit for the exam on September 1st. Well, that would give you June and July and August. It would give you 3 months, and it'll tell you how many hours a week over those 3 months you need to spend in order to be through everything and be ready to sit for August 1st.
Yeah, and then Augusta, I want to speak to the last part of that second question because I think it's interesting when I'm talking to people who have experience and they lack confidence, so they want the license, and then people who are going to get the license and they're like, I need the experience. So the analogy that I usually use for confidence on the job, when I turned 16 and got my driver's license, I had the authority to do something, but I didn't have the confidence to do it until I actually put it into practice. So it's going to depend on where you want to practice in EA world before you actually have confidence on the job. If that's tax preparation, you can have the license and still not have confidence until you start preparing more returns. And the same thing in the representation world as well. Um, I think it also speaks kind of to how we have imposter syndrome sometimes. I know people that are really smart and they didn't feel confident, even though they had all the experience in the world, until they got the license. So I'm not sure there's going to be any magic or any certain amount of hours that we can tell you to study to have confidence for that. Augusta also says, I think you sold the study planner. Which package is recommended in including the textbook?
Oh, okay. Let me pull them. I'm going to just go right to my website and just see which package includes the textbook.
And I
Let's
have some notes here. I think, is it the pro level that
Yes,
has
it's the
the.
pro level. We have the essential level, that's more basic, it's a little less expensive. And then we have the pro level where it includes not only the textbook, it includes a pass guarantee. And the pass guarantee says, listen, if you become exam day ready, meaning EDR or exam day ready, means you get through our entire program. If you get through our entire program and you don't pass these exams, they'll give you a $100 credit right back.
Oh, wow. And that again is saying a lot. But like you said earlier, if you go through the system and use it the way you're supposed to, there should be no reason why you shouldn't be ready to take the exam.
Mm-hmm. And that pro package does have unlimited use of the course. So, it doesn't matter how long you need to do it, but it's going to be there for you.
Awesome.
And
And
I see,
then,
another question there from Giancarlo. I'm not sure if you want to put that one up, but I see you've been doing going into your second year. Is it too soon after only 2 seasons? I don't believe so. I think that is a ripe spot to do it. I know people that go for this exam without ever going through a tax season. So if they can do it, then you can absolutely do it. You'll be in great shape for that. And whatever you don't know at this point, our program will teach you. And that's the great thing about it. We assume that everyone has a very basic level, if any, of tax experience. And what's great is this course teaches to the exam. We know the topics that are going to be tested. We know how they're going to test them. So that's what our videos teach. That's what our homework questions focus on, as well as all of the exam products that we offer. And there's the flashcards and all these other little tools that you can use to really learn the material. And what's great about it is if you're doing taxes right now, we have those tax form videos. So in case there's ever a form that you don't understand, you could watch our tax form videos and learn how to do it right there.
yeah, and I 100% agree with that because, again, you've actually seen what it looks like to put the concepts that you're studying into practice, at least for individuals. And you have to remember as well the current exam is covering a tax year that you've already prepared taxes for. Whereas if you wait until after the blackout period, you're going to be looking at new tax law. So, in my humble opinion, if at all possible, I would try to get part one done before February 28th. Or do we have 29 days next year? I'm not sure.
And also another thing, I just put a link in our private chat at Timalyn. It is a link to our 14-day demo. So you could try the course out 14 days, the entire course, part 1, part 2, part 3, everything, see what it's all about. Doesn't cost you a thing. And, it's a test drive. You're right. You like to drive the cars before you really purchase or lease a car. Same thing right here. You get 14 days total access.
So I just dropped that in. It just went to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And why not take advantage of that? And I already asked the question what Mike recommends you go take advantage of first if you're looking at that demo. So, most definitely take advantage of that opportunity to get a feel for Becker, how they're presenting the material if it works for you. And like I said, for my people who do individual returns, we have some things that are going to be changing quite a bit when the new exam material is coming out, just because of the things that changed with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So you want to make sure that you are studying material that you already know. I think, again, that's a confidence boost, because you can say, hey, I actually knew this, I got it done. When blackout period's over, hit it back to studying and be ready for part 2 and 3.
Yeah. And it's really true. It's, it's very interesting. And I'm sure for everybody out there that does their individual tax, right? We're familiar with the models, right? We have our gross income, then we subtract our adjustments. We have our adjusted gross income. Then we subtract our itemized deductions. Then after that, we still have the qualified business income deduction that we have to take. But now after that, because of the One Big Beautiful Bill, we're going to have, exceptions for deductions for tips and for other things like that. So it's really putting in a whole nother level into these individual returns. And if you haven't worked with it yet, one of the great things, even for your tax practice, we're going to kind of give you the guidance on how to do that as well.
Oh, sweet. So we have another question about the demo or
all
trial.
3 parts. Yep. Is a demo for all 3 parts? Absolutely. Because we don't know which part you want to start with. Even though a lot of people go part 1, part 2, part 3, not everybody does that. Some people are more comfortable with entity and they want to start with that first, or they just want to get part 3 out of the way because they don't know much about that and then move to 1 or 2. Perfectly fine. But our 14-day demo covers all 3 parts.
Yeah, which is good as well, because as you pointed out, you don't know how familiar people are with a certain part, and it may not make sense for them to start with one. Uh, part 3 is a lot of memorization. Maybe you want to go there first. Um, I don't see any other questions, and I know we've been on about an hour. Mike, thank you again for joining me tonight. I know that you were on your way to a much deserved vacation of how busy you are. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here. For our folks who are checking this out, whether it's the live stream or they're catching the replay later, you've given us the information for the demo. If they wanted to follow or connect with you, where can they do that? And then if you have time, I'll get that question that just popped up.
Oh, I like how Giancarlo thinks. That's awesome. Just asking for a friend. You could, right? Absolutely. You could. Hey, more power to you. You cram it 14 days and hey, game the system. Nothing the matter with that. It's all good. And if you could do that, then, I tip my hat to you. That's for sure. But absolutely.
Live on Mountain Dew, get it done.
That's who needs sleep? Who needs sleep? But even though, listen, I'm supposed to be leaving for vacation tomorrow, but I love to talk tax. If you want to just hang around for a few more hours and talk tax, I don't have to go anywhere. I'm good.
So we're getting some thank yous. But oh yeah. I don't want to forget. Where can people find you to follow you online or to connect with you?
Yeah, I think the LinkedIn that you have right in your ad for tonight's session, if you click on my name in Timalyn's advertisement for tonight's session, that'll connect me to LinkedIn, and I monitor my LinkedIn religiously. So if you ever direct message me in there, I will absolutely get back to you, pretty quickly. So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you have any last words of advice for our folks who were studying for the EA exam?
I do. And I know not everybody is a great standardized test takers, right? Some people love standardized tests. They can remember, no problem. Others get, feeling of, stress and, fear and stuff. I'll just say this. These exams by the IRS, they're very fair. The math is not very difficult at all. It's just knowing the concepts. Yes, there's some memorization involved, some dollar amounts, threshold levels, some basic formulas, but it is an exam that you can pass. You just have to be patient with yourself. And although Giancarlo is going to be done in 14 days. Not everybody can be done 3 parts in 14 days. So give yourself enough time and don't put too much stress on yourself. But as long as you go through the material and you have the guidance, you can do this. And this is our business. I personally eat, sleep, and breathe tax. And I've been doing it for a long time, and I love helping people. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can definitely give you some other advice or answer questions that you may have. But that's all I'd say. Sometimes getting started is the hardest part. But once you kind of put your toe in the water, you're like, oh, it's not that cold, and you can get your whole body in there. And before you know it, you'll be swimming in tax law and passing EA exams, and you'll be on your way to having your own tax practice and making a great career in a profession that we all love and know how safe and secure and what opportunities they are. So I highly recommend just do it. Just get started.
Awesome. So, ending on a positive note, looks like somebody might be taking advantage of that demo pretty soon. But I want to encourage everybody watching. Mike has given us quite a few gems here when it comes to studying how to utilize the Becker EA review system. If you think that this is something that you are interested in, you have 14 days that you can take advantage of it for free to get a feel. Take the first step. Like Mike said, put your toe in the water. I promise you, it's not that cold. I got through it. Mike got through it. You can get through it too. If you have any questions on the replay of this recording, make sure you drop them down in the comments. If they are specific to Mike, I will make sure he knows that they're there. And if I can answer them, I will. You all have a great evening, and I'll see you in the next live stream.